Hello, welcome back to Super Necessary. Been a while since we've introduced it like that, but for a good reason. Today, delighted to say we're joined by the one and only, the Kraken, Mr. Juan Adams.
How's it going, man?
How you doing? You okay? You good?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm just chilling right now. Coach canceled my pad session, so it's a good day.
Rest.
I,
Yeah.
I've got to ask before we start properly. I've seen two different things about this. Is the nickname the Kraken or is it the chosen one?
The nickname is the Kraken. So
Right.
it's weird. I've gone by the chosen one since I was like 12, right? It was my MySpace nickname. And then when I made my first Instagram, a lot of my friends were already kind of just calling me that, and just kind of stuck. It's weird. It's like everyone gave themselves their own nickname when they were doing MySpace. But first nickname that was given to me was the Kraken. Obviously, in school, people give you nicknames that you don't really stick with, but the guy that got me into fighting gave me the nickname the Kraken, so it just kind of stuck, and that's what I go by when I fight. A chosen one is what kind of everyone else knew me as before that.
Yeah.
I like it. I like both. Uh, yeah, I asked about that because I was unsure. But all good. So want to start sort of before you started in MMA then. So you had tryouts in the NFL as a defensive lineman for the Packers and the Colts, I believe.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
how was that experience for you? I mean, obviously, despite coming away unsuccessful, was that a good learning experience for you?
It was cool, man. It wasn't like the tryouts where you suited up and everything. Like basically, the Colts were interested in me. So they told me to go to this facility down in Houston, which is where I'm from. So I went down there and they had a lot of guys that were like either trying to get back into the league or like veterans trying to, make a roster or people kind of just staying ready in case somebody got hurt. And, I was working out there. Everything was going really great. The Packers came down to evaluate like a group of us. And um like I basically like I found out I really love working out. I just don't like playing football. Kind of the same thing that happened in college. I was uh, they had me go out spring my freshman year, and I just didn't like it. And then they switched me to offensive line, which is what I got injured playing in high school. Which is what made me end up wrestling in college instead of playing football. So I just I I don't like football. It's weird. Like I like watching other people be good at it from time to time, but even if I go to a football game, I get bored. It's not does nothing. It does nothing for me anymore. But I love working out. I love training. Even when my fighting career is over, I know I'll still be working out to some degree. I like the way I look. I like I like seeing I like modifying, my workouts to make different parts of my body look big or small or whatever, playing with my weight, just really messing around with my potential. I love doing that. So, yeah. And then after that, I was like 320 pounds, and I'd always said I wanted to fight, and a lot of people didn't think I could do it. So I was like, all right, let's go for it. So I took an amateur fight just to see if I could even make the weight, made the weight, and then next thing I know, I was like pro UFC doing it all. So it was crazy.
I read as well. You mentioned college. You've got is it a computer science degree?
Yeah, yeah. My degree's in computer science, my minor's in exercise science, and before they got rid of it, I was gonna get a minor in philosophy as well, but they discontinued that minor, so I ended up not getting that.
Is that something to go to when you finish fighting, or is you just wanted to do
No,
it to get it?
I do not like the field of IT. The thing with computer science, man, is like the stuff I learned at this point, that was 8 years ago, 7 years ago. Um, it's obsolete now. Like obviously, like with a couple refresher courses, like I could be decent at it again, but the fields to go into there, you can do hardware, you can do software programming or software engineering, or you know, basically just programming. And programming, you don't even necessarily need a degree for anymore these days. Or you can do IT work. And while yeah, I could easily go and make six figures doing that, it's boring to me. It's not fun to me. The people that I would be around all day don't really click with me. And I'm a teacher, dude. I like being a teacher. I like being able to help kids through stuff. Even the teaching aspect, I enjoy teaching, but I'm more so into just the impact and being able to help kids that are going through the same stuff I was going through, and kind of just being a guide for them, and helping them out, and letting them really step into who they are. That's kind of what I'm more passionate about. I was working in behavioral health before I started teaching, and behavioral health was hands down my favorite field to work in. There was just the homes just out here just kept getting shut down, and I do a pretty good job in the classroom, so I'm gonna stick with that.
Um, you mentioned there before about wrestling as well. We saw the video of you talking about like pursuing wrestling in college and that, and there's like a two-part question. So, first one is like, how difficult is it to come away from something to an extent that you've been pursuing for a while, and also what advice would you give to other people that may be in that sort of predicament of not maybe not wanting to give something up? Um, like you've mentioned there, you've done quite a bit as well, and you know, what would be your advice to people in that predicament?
Well, like the first part was like, how was it walking away from wrestling?
Mm,
Yeah, okay, so that was hard, man. That was one of the few times in my life where I really went all in on something and I didn't reach the goals that I wanted, And people can look back at it. I started in America, to wrestle Division 1. Most of the people that wrestle Division 1 start wrestling around middle school. Most even younger than that. I didn't start wrestling until I was 14 years old. I was a freshman in high school. And I was okay my freshman year, but I really did it because I wasn't going to be on the basketball team. And then I got my growth spurt, and it's like, well, I could probably make the basketball team now, but I kind of like this wrestling thing. So I kept wrestling. I was varsity as a sophomore. I won over 100 matches in high school. I took fifth in state. I went in an All American at the Disney Duels. Man, I was loving it. And I went to college and I completely got like wrecked. My freshman year, I remember Parents Weekend. My coach made me cry in front of my grandma and my mom, dude. It was terrible, but I loved it, man. I loved the aspect. I love pushing myself to the limit every day. I loved it, and I really wanted to All American at the Division 1 level for that. But you know, I suffer from performance anxiety. I suffered from performance anxiety a lot, imposter syndrome a lot. Like I was like, man, how am I even here, man? I'm not supposed to be here. I wasn't all that in high school. I didn't wrestle from a young age like these other guys. But so when I bombed out at conference, I was the number one seed at conference my last year there, right? I ended up taking fourth place. Horrible for me. And like that was hard to deal with. And I had an offer. I didn't really have an offer. The Army and the Marines had reached out to me about, maybe going that route and trying to enlist or trying to become a part of the world class athlete program and just be on either the Army or the Marine wrestling team for Greco Roman. And I just thought at that moment, it's like, man, I just gave the greater part of the last 5 years of my life to this. Like year round, I was in the gym, I was training, I was doing everything I could. I still fell short. And on top of that, there's really not a lot of money in this. So why, why am I still doing this? And at the time, man, money was a really big motivator for me because my mom was diagnosed with cancer in my 5th year of college, right? I moved back to Houston, and that's where the NFL thing kind of came into play. I was like, okay, well, if I can make a 53-man roster, that's over 400K in a year. Like, yeah, that would be great, and I could, pay my mom's medical bills, whatever. My mom ends up dying of cancer like that year. I was like, oh shit, and I had to assume that responsibility. I had to take over the my mom was kind of like the glue of my family. She was on top of everything. So I just get this list and it's just bills. So I started working, working, working. And that was kind of why I walked away from wrestling. There wasn't really a whole lot of money in it. I still loved it. I was still coaching. I was still very active with it. But I kind of had to walk away from it. And my advice for anyone trying to pursue that path is, if that's really what you want to do, wrestling is one of those sports where I won't say you always get out of it what you put into it, but you put yourself in the best position to be successful the more you put into it, right? And there's so many different styles of wrestling and styles within those styles and strategies and all that. Like, so if you really want to do it, man, I'd say fall in love with it. And if it's not something you're absolutely in love with, don't do it because there's very few people that are just super talented that can be great at something that they don't absolutely love. And that would be my advice to the younger people doing it. But if it's something you really want to do, man, you're gonna find a way to do it. And that was kind of my whole philosophy on it. I ended up getting an offer from a Division I school at Virginia Military Institute, and looking, if I had known everything that I know now about that school when they offered me, I probably wouldn't have gone. But I didn't know. All I knew is I loved wrestling, and all right, cool. I'm gonna wrestle at the Division I level. I'm gonna do it. And I went there, and once I was there, I commit to stuff. So if I couldn't give up. You know, my mom told me when she dropped me that, hey, we can't afford to fly you back, so you're stuck here.
Yeah,
And I just made the most of it. So I kind of took what life gave me and I ran with it.
yeah.
Yeah.
How old were you at that point? You mentioned your mum and the cancer. How old were you at that point?
I was 23 when I found out about it.
Wow.
And I found out later
So
that
young,
like
wasn't
my family coaches kind of knew about it before I did, but they didn't tell me because they didn't want me to drop out of school. So I was like, yeah.
Yeah, you're still very young, aren't you? It's a lot to deal with, like, and especially
Yeah.
when you're pursuing something like that. Yeah, I can imagine how hard it would have been. Like,
Yeah, it was really hard, man. And there's times where I still wasn't really over that. I didn't really get over it till about 5 or 6 years after the fact.
yeah, yeah, deal
Mm.
with.
Yeah, it's a lot to go through. Makes you grow up a lot quicker than maybe you would have wanted to, I suppose.
Yeah,
So,
definitely, definitely.
so you mentioned before you've fought in quite a few promotions now, LFA, UFC, now PFL. But after leaving UFC, you won the Fury FC heavyweight title. How big of a moment was that for you in your career?
It was a really big moment for me. And looking back, I kind of wish I had appreciated it a little bit more. At that moment, I was just like, all right, next thing, right? But it was a really big moment looking back because um, one, it kind of validated a lot of, do I still have what it takes? You make it to the UFC, didn't have the run I wanted there. Got dropped from it. Signed with another promotion. That one fell through. So then I'm back on the regional scene, and it's like, okay, well, I'm walking through these guys, and they're not hard fights, but they weren't hard fights for me. But looking back, like I fought guys that were really good. You know, those guys aren't bad. None of those guys are scrubs. So to be able to beat them with the ease in which I did it was a big confidence booster for me.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and as you mentioned there, you went from UFC and you sort of come down to the regional scene. As they always say, like there's only one place you can go when you go solo, and that's back up again, isn't it? So,
Yeah.
so you're currently fighting out of Jackson Wink in Albuquerque. How difficult was the decision? You mentioned you're from Houston, you had to relocate. How difficult was that? Is that like, did you have to like acclimatize as well with that? Did you?
Yeah, man, that was a really hard decision because my whole family's down in Houston. That's been my support system, you know, my whole life. Family is was everything to me. So, and then on top of that, you know, it felt like I was being disloyal by leaving the guys that got me to where I was going. That was hard. And on top of that, you know, I was in a relationship at the time, and it it was already on its way out, so that didn't really factor that much into it. But you know, when I moved out here, I was doing so much trying to just cling to that life that I had before I moved out here. And when I finally released everything from that, that's when I really saw a level up for me. And then even moving out here, you know, I don't know, I didn't know anyone, whatever. So I had to kind of reestablish myself within the community, reestablish, you know, myself within the gym. And it was hard, but I, you know, buried myself in the work and I just kept working, showing up every day. And it made it easier. You know, the work made it easier. Physically, it was hard, but it helped me to transition a little bit better.
Yeah,
Yeah.
helped you mentally as well with the whole transition and that.
Hmm.
So only one of your fights have ever gone to a decision, all the others have been finishes one way or the other. Is that how you approach your fights? Are you always looking to go in and get to finish?
Yeah, that's it, man. I always want to finish, man, and it sucks because you know people say I'm kind of boring. I'm a boring fighter. Um, as I applied more strategy to my fights, I either got knocked out or they became more boring, or I became more comfortable. Just you know, all right, yeah, whatever. I'm here to work. Let's go. And so it took a little bit of that edge off as I've gotten older and done more in the game. I'm a little bit more patient in there. Um, but I still like am looking to finish, man. And it's crazy. It's like people always wonder like how I would do in a street fight, man. And it's like I don't fight in the street. One, I get paid to fight, so I'm not gonna do it for free. And two, like if we're fighting in the street, like the ref's not gonna stop. Like I know I'm not going out, so I'm gonna kill you, you know. So that's just where I'm at with it. Like, and people don't understand like the responsibility that comes with having the ability to really kill someone with your bare hands. Like it's not. So that's why I don't do it. I'm a very laid back person outside of it. Like I'll get a little crazy every now and then, but I'm pretty laid back.
The streets have no rules, do they? So it's
No,
literally no holds barred in the street.
definitely
Um,
not.
so and I wanted to ask you about you posted a poem called Another Night on your YouTube, and that
Yeah.
was like regarding a breakup and that. How did you get into writing poems, and how much did that help you as well?
You know, it's funny, man. I've been writing for a while. And I kind of stepped away from it because I started doing it as a means to better navigate my own emotions and deal with a lot of the darkness that was going through my head when, you know, I was losing everything. And another night was that's a poem that I wrote when uh the girl I was seeing at the time having like this unconditional love for somebody and really just needing that assurance from them at that time in that moment and not having it, but still like loving that person. That helped me through that because that was a really big deal for me. A lot of my life I've dealt with abandonment and rejection, and that triggered a lot of those emotions. And so I wrote that, but and I had posted it on all my socials, and it wasn't really like an indictment of her. It was more so just to show people like, look, yeah, like a lot of people see me and they see like, oh, this dude's attractive, he's young, he's got a little bit of fame. Like everybody, everybody would think that, I don't deal with the same problems as a lot of people, but I do. And it affects me a lot. And now when I write or when I write poetry or I write along some like a long form thing, not a full essay, but just writing my thoughts out, it allows me to always have a reference point, right? So it gives me perspective and something to reference through the peaks and valleys of life, right? And people have this concept of your best self, right? Your best of like it's this fixed concept. And that's not what it is, man. Like your best self is it can be related to anything. It's how am I handling this in the best way possible? Then yeah, that's my best self. Am I better now than I was yesterday? Yeah, so I'm the best I've ever been. It's not the best I'm ever gonna be. Like my best self is a relative term. So writing allows me to go back and look at these things from a different perspective. And I tell people all the time, like reality is what it is, right? Our experience is how we are experiencing reality through the lens of our own perspective, right? And it's different for each person. So the reality is like that's what I was feeling in that moment from my perspective. And um a lot of people like related to it, and a lot of people, were like, oh, that's weird. And you know, the girl I was talking to hated it. The girl I was seeing, she hated it, still hates it. And I don't even know if we're gonna end up together or not. But it's like, as a man, a lot of the times you can't really be fully vulnerable with people. A lot of times, a lot of men experience, and it's trauma for everyone. But a lot of times, like your vulnerability will be used against you, or it'll diminish you, and or people will view you as less masculine in one way or another. And for me, it's like I'm very secure in my masculinity. I don't care if people view me as weak or effeminate or whatever. Like we all have feelings. Like
Yeah,
everyone has feelings. And if you can't address them and you can't learn from them and you can't use it as content for like emotional content in one way, or like to empower somebody else from what you're feeling or relate to other people from what you're feeling, then you're going to be miserable because that's one less way in which you can connect to other people. And connection is so important to the human experience.
yeah. Do
Yeah.
you think those that have labeled it weird is just people who are struggling with their own insecurities to actually be able to speak and be comfortable speaking like that, like you did?
Oh, definitely. Sometimes it's other people can view it as weird. It's like, well, I would never post that online. I would never let everyone know what I was thinking. And I'm like, I don't care. I
Mm.
don't care. There's some stuff that I always keep very close to my chest. Like there's certain things that I won't ever tell people about unless I feel like it's going to help people or empower them in some way. Right.
Yeah.
Um, but part of, being in the public eye and having the platform and the followers that I have is, people are gonna look. And I've run the entire table with the stuff that I post online. I'm a human just like everyone else, so I have stuff, and there's been stuff up there that I regret posting, and there's been stuff that I probably shouldn't have posted. But at the end of the day, it really doesn't matter. It's just, if it can help somebody, it it's made the world a better place for one other person, right? And
Yeah.
that's what I look to do with my platform, and that's what I always look to do in everyday life. Like, even if I'm going through hell, like, if I don't want to do anything, I know that there's people out there where the best part of their day is interacting with me.
Mm.
And I want to make sure that I can make that person's day a little bit better, or I can help that person in some way, as opposed to, just shutting everything out or shutting it in and holding it inside and doing that, because it does bring me joy in a sense. So if I'm having the worst day, but I know I made somebody else's day better, that's made my day a little bit better.
Yeah.
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 That's
Definitely.
great way to look at things as well. So more on your YouTube channel, then it obviously consists of a lot of different topics that you like to talk about. One of the things you mentioned was about journaling. In terms of expression, how different is it for you, from speaking on a video to writing in a journal? And is journaling something you'd recommend to people?
Yeah, I would recommend journaling to a lot of people. The difference for me is, when I speak it, it gives things a little bit more power in a way, but it also allows you to better understand where I'm coming from, because you can pick up the tone, you can pick up whatever. How many times have you sent a text message that got horribly misconstrued,
Yeah.
right? Right.
Very
So when I
often.
post my thoughts on something and I post it on YouTube and I go back and watch it later, I can better capture how I was truly feeling in that moment, right? Now, when I journal, man, that journaling is hard for me, man, because there's times where I'm in such a dark place where I just start writing and everything just starts come pouring out. And I'm 5, 6, 7 pages in, and I'm just like, what? Oh my God, this is some dark stuff. Like, so I burn it. I burn that stuff. I don't want any record of that ever, because people will see that and have me committed, and I don't want that. So, but it definitely helps, because it again, it's that perspective. Because I'll get to writing, I'll hit that pause moment, and I'm like, why am I feeding into all this darkness? Why am I feeding in all this sadness? Is this how I want to feel right now? And it might not be how I want to feel, but the part of the experience is to feel it, sit in it, sit with it for a little bit, and then make a decision after that. So that's what journaling has really helped me to do. It's helped me to slow down my life a little bit and make me a little bit less impulsive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's interesting. So to go into sort of more current things then, and fighting, I guess, the next season of PFL, how excited are you to get started with that?
Well, I would be pretty excited, but they actually we didn't they elected not to kind of re-sign me, so I'm going back to whoever now. I'm gonna be fighting, and I'm still focused. I'm still on the lab, but we just couldn't get it done. Which is fine. It was great to have that opportunity to come in, not expecting to have a fight, and ended up being a quarterfinalist. It was twice I wasn't expecting to fight that I got to fight, and that's a great experience. Would I have liked to be a little bit more prepared next time? Definitely. But I definitely showed that I'm up there with the top in the world, and it was definitely a great experience. I got to go. I got to travel to a different country and fight, and then the UK used my tax dollars to pay for the Queen's funeral. I'm not too happy about that, but
Neither are
but
trust us.
but It is what it is, man. It was a great experience, and I've got nothing but positive things to say about every promotion that I've ever fought for. Honestly, my favorite part of fighting is getting to interact with the staff at each of these events because they do so much behind the scenes to make it run smoothly, and nobody ever knows about it. But those guys are the real MVPs, man. And that's my favorite part is just sitting there talking with them and connecting with those guys and women, of course. Like just connecting with them, it's always an amazing experience to just see the human aspect of everything.
Yeah, absolutely. So have you got anything in the pipeline at the moment? Is there a fight coming up soon or anything?
Yeah, I've got one promotion looking to match me in March. My coach and manager are working with two or three other promotions to try and give me something a little bit sooner. I like to fight January, February, March. My weight's good. I'm ready to go on a week's notice. So um I'm excited. And I look at this as a chance to really, get back out there and, show what I can do, show my best self again. And every time I step out there, I want to show something a little bit better. And that's what I plan on doing. I feel bad for the next guy I'm fighting because I'm definitely going to be ready to rip somebody's head off.
I mean, you're capable of it as well. You spoke about being able to literally kill another man, so we know you're
Yeah.
capable.
Yeah.
So when when a new year comes around, do you have in mind how much you want to be active in terms of fighting for that year, or do you just take each one as it comes?
I gotta take each one as it comes, man. The way I see it is I'm in my prime, and I'd like to fight as much in my prime as I can. So, there was one time, my last fight with the PFL. That was my seventh fight in 15 months. Right. I'm definitely ready to put that pace out again. I'm ready for it. If I could fight 5 or 6 times next year, I would. It's just obviously picking the right fights and getting the right fights because as much as I'm old school, man. I want to fight anybody, anytime, anywhere. Like I don't care. I've already lost, so it doesn't matter to me anymore. I'm just ready to go. But at the same time, like fighting a guy that's 2-0 or 0-3 or got an upside down record doesn't really do much for me for the brand, and then other top guys might not want to fight me because they lose to me. Well, this is a guy that's lost in two major promotions. What does that do for me? He's not really a top name,
Yeah,
so there's high risk, low reward for them.
Yeah.
For me, it's not about the reward anymore. It's I just want to fight now, so that's what I'm doing. Obviously, everyone you want to fight for a big promotion. I want to go back. I want to become a world champion in some organization, but there's it's just when opportunity comes, I have to be ready, and that's what I'm looking at right now. I just want to be ready for the next opportunity.
Yeah. I think what's good out there at the moment is there is so much MMA. There's so many promotions that are doing really good things at the minute. So I think if you're like yourself and you want to fight often, there's always going to be opportunities there to do that.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm very excited about it. It's a great time to be a fighter.
Yeah, definitely. Just to go back to PFL for the moment, just wanted to get your thoughts on how they do things. Obviously, they operate very differently to other MMA organizations with the league table and stuff like that. What was your opinion with how that was run? Did you like the difference with it?
I absolutely loved it, man. I loved everything about PFL. Only thing I didn't like was elbows, man. It really hindered my ground and pound. If I could have elbowed, I definitely would have finished both of those fights sooner. So that that sucks. But other than that, man, the production value is amazing. The staff is top notch, and I really like what they're doing, man. It's great having the season format and knowing and just knowing when you're gonna fight
Mm,
and having that point system is also huge because it still gives you the incentive to finish, right?
yeah,
But it's not like fight of the night thing or anything like that. It's just it's a really cool way they do it, and Ray's brilliant for coming up with it that way.
yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Do you think it won't be long before we see it like proper competing with the likes of UFC and one championship?
I do think that they're gonna get there sooner rather than later, especially with the names that they're bringing over. And it's crazy when you bring in these names from these other top organizations and they go and they lose to other guys over here.
Mm,
That's huge, man. That all that does is speak to the value and the talent within that company, and it shows that it's a fight. Anything can happen.
yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll let you ask this one, Keaton. So I know you were very curious with this one, so I'll let you finish off with this one.
So first and foremost, being like a pleasure speaking to you and getting like insight, and now you're very, very interesting fella. But for this one, for some reason with yourself, I wanted to do this. So it's something different, and by the sound of it, like it's an opportunity for perspective. You seem to be a lot about that. So we went back to your first post on your Instagram, and it was dated 10th September 2012. It was a bead bracelet with the chosen one on it. Can you give some insight into that and how much changes happened from then until now?
Yeah. So that that post, I'll still remember it. I was in college, right, and they told me like, "Hey, man, you need to make." A lot of my teammates or classmates or whatever, like, "Man, you should make an Instagram. You need to make an Instagram." I'm like, well, "What the hell is Instagram? Like, what is that?" Like, well, it's like Facebook, but it's just pictures. I'm like, then why don't I just post a picture on Facebook? They're like, no, man, it's just different. Like, you gotta do it. Everyone's doing it. So I made it, and it's like, well, what do I even post? And I'll never. I was in biology class, right? I was a junior, and I think I was taking like freshman or sophomore biology because I just switched majors. And I'm sitting there like, what do I even post? And we were doing this lab with we were doing a lab on Punnett squares or something like that, something to do with heredity or genetics. And I'll never forget, like I just grabbed a bead kit off of the bench because I had already finished all my work. So I was like, all right, whatever, I can't leave class early. So I just went and grabbed the bead kit and I made it. And they're like, "What colors are you gonna use?" I'm like, "Oh." So I really just didn't care. So posted it, and I took that photo, and I was like, "Oh, look, it's me! Finally made one." And at that time, man, like I didn't, I don't view myself as like a celebrity. Even to this day, I don't. Like I'm just a dude that
Yeah,
like people watch, but at that time, man, I could just post whatever, say whatever, do whatever, and nobody really cared. And I look at it like from then to now, like, and then it got to a point, where I became my team captain or whatever. So I had to be a little bit more. And then kids had started to follow me and stuff. So I was like, all right, I should be a little more responsible with, saying and doing certain things.
yeah,
And then you get to when I was in the UFC and I had to just do whatever for attention. And I hated that phase of my life where you have to like seek attention on there. That's not my thing.
yeah,
And it was cool at first. I was like, I just like posting selfies, man. I was like, I look good today. I'm gonna post this. And then it got to a point where it's like, I don't need that type of validation. And I was in the UFC. It's like, well, you have to be entertaining. So I was just being wild and crazy. And then it
yeah,
got to a point where I had to really put thought into every little thing I posted. Like nothing was whatever. Like I remember in college, man, there were times where like my teammates would be picking on me or like bothering me or something. I would be sad and I would like post something with like my thoughts and write a little journal or whatever. And then I would have to delete it later because it was, and looking from then to like where I had the embarrassment or expectation around certain things that I didn't want to post to now where like my whole thing is I want to be vulnerable, give people perspective, like let them know it's okay to not be okay sometimes, right?
Yeah,
But I still have to like if I have a typo now versus if I had a typo then, I'm getting hunt or however many comments people like you're an idiot, blah blah, blah saying whatever.
yeah,
And also, man, I also have to be careful because like back then I could like post kind of whatever, and people would hit on me or whatever. Now when I post, man, I got if I'm not careful or I don't put the right like hashtags or whatever, it could go to the completely wrong group of people, and
yeah,
I'm getting kind of weird stuff. So it's different. It's just so different now, and it's cool to think of how it's evolved because Instagram used to not be a shopping thing. They used to not be able to post videos. There's a limit on how long you could type something or whatever, and now it's a completely different beast, man. I actually got blackmailed on Instagram the other like I was like, what the hell is this? So just from like being relatively anonymous to now, it's different, man. And now like if I comment on something, it goes straight to the top because of the blue check mark. So I can't even just be stupid on there anymore. And I have to be mindful of what my friends tag me in. I'm like, hey guys, look, there's certain stuff you cannot
yeah,
tag me. That is that's a no-no. But so it's fun, but I have gotten some cool stuff off of it too. Like I never thought that I would be able to like leverage my Instagram for like free stuff or get interviews off of Instagram. Whereas now it's like I could be doing interviews all the time. I could post reels. I can do whatever, and it's cool. Like it's just interesting how different it is now.
Yeah,
yeah.
it's a great
Uh,
tool for fighters, to be fair.
Yeah.
the other thing I had down, and by the sounds of it, this is what's coming across. I said, can you remember where you was mentally at that point of that first post? And I think mentally, by the sounds of it, you're probably free.
Yeah. I was very free, and I was just like, well, whatever. It's weird because I'm still the same person. Like, it's so different because at that time I was just doing it because I thought it was funny. Oh look, I'm gonna post, chosen one and some beads on here, and then it was just like all about selfies or whatever. But now it's like I got to be careful of even what I like on Instagram or comment. Like I follow a lot of spirituality pages and stuff, and like right now it's all about like getting your ex back. So that's what I'm like on. But I still got to be like sneaky. I'm like, how many followers does this page have? I don't want to follow this affirmation. Somebody's gonna be in my DMs about this. So um, it's just funny and looking at my state of mind then versus now, I can still say like I'm still the same person. I'm just a lot more conscious of what I post, how I post it. And I don't even like at that point, like, yeah, I liked the attention. Now, like I hate it. I really like I don't enjoy it. But I also know that, there's certain people that are inspired by certain things that I post. So I'm very mindful not to just post something like showing off my body. Like there's gonna be a message behind the stuff that I post now, and I don't get to post just to be stupid. On my story, I do, but on in an actual post, like I want those to have some meaning now. Which is why I haven't really deleted much from back then because it shows the progression of
Yeah,
where I was as a young man to now.
Yeah,
yeah.
tells your
They're,
story anyway.
they're in
Mhm.
a way what you mentioned before. They're like reference points, the growth
Yeah,
arc. So it's yeah, it's all there.
Yeah, and going back and looking at some of that, I'm like, man, oh, I wish I had that, that enthusiasm for life still. There's sometimes I look at those posts and it's weird now because my students go on there and they'll like screenshot different things from my Instagram. And I'm walking and I'm like, I'm some kid's background in my school. I'm like, hey, man, take that off. That's not appropriate. Take that down. Like, highly inappropriate. There's one. I have one student that's got like 60 screenshots from my Instagram, and then she just like rotates them as her background. And I think it's just to mess with me, so I don't really put too much heat into it. But there's some stuff I'm like, that's inappropriate. You need to take that off of your phone. Like that's no bad.
You got to draw the line somewhere.
Yeah.
Well, that was everything we had for you, Juan. Really, really appreciate your time. It's been amazing to speak with you, and we can't wait to see you back in action again very soon.
For sure, man. Thank y'all for having me. It was a great talk.
As well as that, mate. Keep being you. Keep doing what you're doing.
For sure, man. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Appreciate your time, mate.
No problem. Y'all have a good one.
You too.
You too. Take it easy, mate.
Later. Thank you. You too.